coming as reports have hit the tape that jihadists are planning to use President-elect Trump's victory to recruit new fighters. I want to bring in Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer right now. And Lieutenant, good to see you. Colonel Shaffer, what's your take, first off, on jihadists using Trump's victory as a recruiting tool, and then this threat that they want to attack America during the Thanksgiving Day parade?
Well, Mary, first off, this whole fiction of anything Mr. Trump has done or not done as a recruiting tool is totally insane. I've talked to multiple members of the intelligence community. ISIS doesn't care. They're going to recruit using the methodology they've always done. They seek to bring those in who have essentially a psychological need to belong to something greater, as well as a certain view of the world. So Mr. Trump saying anything has no relevance to their recruiting efforts. Secondly, to the point of what's coming here. Look, we know for a fact that ISIS does have a network. It is functioning. It is actually has operatives here now. The question now becomes, can we prevent it from becoming as effective as it was in Europe? There's three things we have to do immediately. First, we have to approach and defeat ISIS as a global target. Mr. Trump says he knows more than the generals. In some ways, I think he's already hit the nail on the head. It's about leadership and policy. The policy has been, Maria, to not allow the Pentagon to go after ISIS as a global target. Secondly, once you fix that policy, is to go after the elements of ISIS wherever they're at. And that means we have to be a lot more aggressive anywhere, everywhere, and to do that effectively, quickly. And the third factor has to be the settlement, essentially the long-term targeting of radical Islam and calling it out for what it is. President Obama has been reluctant, if not completely denying the existence of this radical element of Islam, which you must accept as existing to defeat. So I think those are the things that Mr. Trump will recognize. I think he has people helping advise him on this, and I think he'll be able to come in very rapidly and start making some effort to go after ISIS.
Colonel, it's Kevin Kelly.
Hey, Kevin.
We've got a new administration coming in. Are there going to be certain new tacks that this administration will take that the last administration didn't take in to prevent terrorist attacks and implement new policies?
The answer is yes. There's groups right now I'm aware of which are actually working to advise the Pentagon and the administration to look at the full spectrum of tactics. That is to say, old and new. There's members of the old Reagan White House who have come out. I've spoken to a couple of them. There's clearly a need to look at everything on the spectrum. Everything that can be done must be done to protect the American people. And again, this is something the old White House did not seem to have an interest in doing. I do believe Mr. Trump and the new White House will have an interest, so absolutely.
With the Islamic State, Tony, it's Dagan McDowell.
Hey, Dagan.
Winning equals recruiting, and what's happening in Mosul, is that an indication that the Islamic State is in retreat, although we've seen them move into other areas throughout the Middle East? Again, particularly, I think this, what's happening, given the one-year anniversary of the attacks in Paris, France, it begs the question.
Well, you're correct. What is happening is exactly as you stated it. As we defeat them there, they're going to other places. Therefore, my comment, we have to approach them as a global target. If you push in a balloon here, it goes somewhere else. That's what's happening. There's no doubt, Dagan, that I think we will see a victory in Iraq, probably within the next 60 days. With that said, defeating them there, taking them out of one geographic target space, you push them into Syria. We don't have a clear solution for Syria. So we have to be very precise on how we do this. And yes, denying them recruiting, denying them bodies, people to join, denying them resources such as money, and then obviously going after them in the space they live, which is social media. Think about this. Mr. Trump won his election by using social media effectively, going right to the people who had to vote for him. ISIS is doing the same thing. They have become a very effective group that uses social media like no other terror organization. So we have to recognize that and actually have our government target ISIS where they live, which is on social media, which we have not been doing well.
Colonel Shaffer, Harlan Hill here.
Hey,
so last night, President-elect Trump was on 60 Minutes, and he was asked about how he was going to deal with ISIS. And he continued with this line to say that he would not divulge what his plan was to take on ISIS. And I understand his reasoning there, but when do you think we'll actually hear this plan? When will he articulate his plan to destroy ISIS? Or is this going to continue to be a mystery for the time being?
Let me say as much as I can say about this.
Okay.
I think it's very clear that a plan has been looked at for quite a while now. There's certain members of his transition team who have been working this issue prior to his victory. So I think the elements of those discussions will now be translated into operational plans. This is going to take some time. So I think part of this, frankly, and I watched the interview last night, Mr. Trump partially is holding back because I don't think he knows all the details yet. I think this is one of those things that's too important to say, I'm just going to roll out the door and go kill these folks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So I think you have to let him build his time up, build the staff up. This is going to take an effort. And we all know that the people in the White House have been very reluctant to give the Pentagon the authority it needs. So I think there's multiple things here. There's leadership, there's planning, and clearly to execute properly, you have to have the right people in place to execute the plan.
You make a great point, Colonel, but at the end of the day, then life happens, right? And you have to face the reality. You may not have that wiggle room and that time as a luxury to have the time you need. I mean, we know what ISIS is calling for right now. They want to get us on Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
And they're calling the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade an excellent target. The latest report is aimed at lone wolves. So what should Americans be thinking about? Should we be concerned that they're trying to fire up new lone wolves in America that are here now to drive trucks through crowds and throngs of people during the Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Well, it's a great point. You know, as Don Rumsfeld said, you got to go to war with the army you got rather than the one you want. So I get that. You have right there where you're at right now the most renowned, effective counterterrorism organization on the planet, NYPD. God bless those folks. They're amazing. So if anybody can get ahead of it, they can. With that said, I don't believe for a minute, Maria, these are lone wolves. These are networked attacks. The Rouhani attack just recently in New Jersey and New York. I've talked to folks in the NYPD. They believe that was a run-through. So this is no small issue. With that said, everything that can be done will be done to prevent this. And yeah, the watchword is vigilance. If you see something, say something. As much as you have an effective counterterrorism organization there, the individual citizen watching something that's different now should step up. And that's one of the things, too, about political correctness. Political correctness should go away. If you see something that's of concern, say something. Don't be thinking that somehow it's racist because you see something that's out of the ordinary and someone is doing something that's untoward. We've got to work together on this to prevent terror. This is both a government issue and an individual issue, which is time for us to work together and defeat.
All right, that's all we can do. As individuals, we just have to be on alert, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We will